branding is what you feel about a product or a company or a person without verbalizing it. Even a person walks into a room, they're carrying a presence with them, a brand, and you can see it in the way that they tuck in their shirt, or is it wrinkled, or is their hair done nicely, or what are their shoes like? And it's not about the garments that they're wearing, it's how they're wearing them. And I think that's what brand is trying to accomplish. Branding is not spending $100,000 on a brand guide and calling yourselves a brand. It's not just the photos and the wrapping, it's everything together. If I had to summarize it, it would be reputation and trust.
Hey all, welcome back. My name is Elizabeth Green, and today I am joined by Andrew Morgan, who is the founder of Marknology. And I am so stoked to get into our topic today, which is all on branding. Why it's so powerful, why you need it as an Amazon seller, 100%. I actually was going through branding right before getting ready for this interview. And for those of you who don't know, Mighty Patch got acquired for $630 million a little while ago, which is bananas. Obviously, they're not still only selling on Amazon. There's a large retail piece that's in that, but they definitely got their start on Amazon. So I definitely can drop, if you want to check it out, the articles on Forbes. But that really puts us into why branding is so important. And Andrew and his team do full service on Amazon, but they really specialize in getting the brand right. And so I'm really excited to introduce Andrew to you all and have him show us the ropes when it comes to building a brand.
What's up, everyone? Elizabeth, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd love just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you got started in this whole world of Amazon.
Amazon found me. I found it by accident. I've been in the Amazon space 11 years. It started out similar to your own story, really, just like I was helping sellers that needed help and was like, oh, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. But I was doing that on Upwork, and I got top 10 in the world on Upwork in the marketing category, which just I was the only one doing Amazon at that time, really, on Upwork, if anyone knows what that is. And they actually acquired Elance as well. So it like wrapped up my reviews. But that really got me started on the Amazon journey. And from there, I just acquired a few clients that were asking me to help them monthly. And professional curiosity and data actually is what pushed me toward caring about branding and content and things like that. It was like an early project from Upwork with Adidas where they had amazing content already as a team. And so I was helping them create A+ pages and essentially launch a brand they had just acquired called My Coach. And I loved it. The assets were beautiful. The lifestyle photography was beautiful. The pages I was making was beautiful. And I wasn't a designer at that time. I just was getting given the assets. But I saw the results of like how those pages did after I made them beautiful, so to speak, with some great content. And after that, it was hard for me to go backwards. It was hard for me to not care about it once I had seen the data and the results of it. Marknology is a full service agency. We're a team of close to 40. We're located mainly in Kansas City, but we have employees all over the world. And we work with brands big and small. Anyone really that just has a great story behind their product, that cares about branding, that cares about that content piece. I think it's a content-led industry now. And so really just wanted to position Marknology as an agency to go to for that storytelling piece, that content piece, because that's really what separates a brand. When there's millions, when everyone's competing against everyone, what separates you from the next? And it's who you are as a person, as a founder, as a business, as a brand. And it's one thing that if you do it right as a brand, like no one can take from you. And we've just put a lot of focus there.
Yeah, that's amazing. As somebody who comes from like the marketing side, I definitely can agree that being able to market something that is well branded, night and day. Absolutely. When you're talking about looking at data stats, yeah, I've seen it for sure. Definitely. So do you mind touching a little bit on like why branding is so powerful? Like what's in the data that just made you go, oh my gosh?
With the data, it was like my conversion rate. It was like my engagement, my click-through rate, metrics like that definitely took big leaps. It was times of one time I launched a brand in 2018. It was a single ASIN brand and the conversion rate was like 47%. I think our first 18 months with that product, right from the beginning, we just nailed it. And so it was like, it's times like that where I'm like, the data comes back and I'm just like, guys, what did we do? What did we just crush? Like, we have to figure out exactly what we did. Branding, when you're living and breathing this stuff, you hear these terms over and you're like, what does it mean? What is this really? Okay. But we all know what branding is. Like here in the Midwest, we have a Quick Trip, which is a gas station. It's just ran so well. It's always so clean. The customer service is so nice. The pumps, they always work. They fuel fast. Like when you think of Quick Trip, you just think of quality and you think good. Or tissue paper. No one calls it tissue paper. We call it Kleenex. Why? Because that brand did it well and they were the first, and we'll always remember that. To me, good branding is what you feel about a product or a company or a person without verbalizing it. Okay. So even a person walks into the room, they're carrying a presence with them, a reputation, a brand, and you can see it in the way that they tuck in their shirt, or is it wrinkled, or is their hair done nicely, or what are their shoes like? Or and it's not about like the garments that they're wearing, it's how they're wearing them. And to me, that's brand. And those are all feelings. Those are all things you feel. So what you're doing with the brand is you're engaging with a potential customer. Maybe they purchase then, maybe it's just the first engagement, but you want them to leave that engagement feeling something. And I think that's what brand is trying to accomplish.
That's really powerful. So it's more than just the images. If you're saying it's the feeling you're getting, it's the whole experience, it's all the things. So what would you say branding is not?
So branding is not spending $100,000 on a brand guide and calling yourselves a brand. It's not just the photos and the wrapping and the everything else. It's everything together. It's almost, if I had to summarize it, it would be reputation and trust. It engages with it. No branding is bad branding. So the absence of, or if it doesn't exist, no one's going to remember you. I don't necessarily love being remembered this way, but plenty of people describe me as the guy with the big red beard. Right? Not saying that's my brand, but it's something, it's a descriptor that people always remember that they're able to say about me. And it's, oh yeah, I know who that is. And that's what you're wanting with that product, especially on Amazon, where at the beginning, the customers, we live and breathe this, but customers are like, am I buying from Amazon? I don't know who I'm buying from. If you're doing a great job with your content and your brand, so to speak, then you're setting yourselves apart from Amazon. They can tell that it's different. Hard question to answer in just one sentence, but essentially branding is not just the content and the assets and the collateral. It's the feeling that your brand creates. It's the environment. It's the ambiance. If you're a restaurant, it's all of these things that to me are like packaged emotions, and you're either feeling like trustworthy, you're feeling quality about it, you're feeling negative about it, you're feeling, it could be any number of things, but branding is what's creating that.
Yeah. It's almost like it's a sum of all the parts, but nothing in isolation. So
Correct.
just having one or two pieces doesn't make you a brand. You have to have a sum of all the parts.
Yeah. So on Amazon, what I've realized is that there's tons of brands or companies out there that have spent millions on their brand. Their website looks amazing. You go into the store, you see it, it's amazing. And on Amazon, it didn't exist. So they just had some photos or a copy of what was on their website or something. It definitely wasn't branded. It wasn't cohesive. And so to me, that was a big hole, a big lapse, like a big leak in their boat, so to speak, if a brand cares about their brand, because it is not any one part, it's a sum of all the parts. And if Amazon is a part of their company, then this area over here is looking like ragtag and it needs to come up a level. And that's really where I started focusing there, was like, how can brands spend all these millions? And I read books like the Story Brand book and books that talk to you about the importance of brand and Gary Vee, and then come to Amazon and it's not existing here, knowing that it could be done if someone paid attention. And that was really what got the light bulb off for me, like why it was important. Is it's so important that I can just come up with example after example of Beats by Dre headphones. They're not the highest quality headphones, but because they had all of these top caliber athletes and movie stars wearing them, the brand grew exceptionally fast and became like a competing brand in the worlds of Sony and Philips and all these kinds of things, Bose headphones. All of a sudden we had a new player on the field, and that was because they did such a good job at the brand.
Yeah, it's the feeling you're getting. It's almost like I've heard it once too, like, especially when you're talking about like product selection, it's almost like by you selecting said product, you're joining this tribe. So I get the feeling of, okay, so if Beats are on the heads of some of the biggest celebrities, I'm now joining the clan by them being on me, and I can kind of get myself into that category.
Yeah, this brand makes me feel like I'm as good as, or there's the product and then there's the brand Beats by Dre. Oh, you have the Beats. People are knowing what to call them. They're not saying you have headphones or you have AirPod or you have like ear buds or whatever. No, they're calling it by the product that it was, which is like great branding in my opinion. And like, even my own company, Marknology, so many people think that they have to be perfect about the brand they create originally, but it's evolved. Mine used to be, we're out of the Midwest, we care, we're a family-based business, we're like high touch, we're boutique, we'll try harder than anyone else, like we've been doing it a long time. And now I'm just like, we're the best in the world at what we do. Like it's completely different message that I'm trying to convey. Like all those other things are true, but those are not the things I'm trying to share with value anymore as our brand. Those are us, but we're also among the best in the world at what we do. And so my messaging has changed. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay for a brand to evolve as they're like in infancy stage and then growing and getting bigger.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd like to switch this up because I know you and I definitely live in the world of Amazon. So I'd love to touch on how can you build a brand on Amazon? Like, why is Amazon a good place to build a brand? Because as we were talking, Amazon is very Amazon, and I think they're always going to keep it that way because they, of course, as a brand, have spent a lot of years, a lot of dollars, been backwards on a lot of profit for a long time to be able to make their brand. So I think they're still going to protect that always. But I know they've also given way more creative abilities to build a brand. So I'd love to hear like why Amazon is a good place to build that.
So I think it's a number of reasons, and I'll list a few. I think it's low barrier to entry when it comes to, I don't have to have a relationship with a buyer at Walmart that's going to say, yes, I can sell there. Okay. So there's not these big, large barrier to entries for retail. And another one would be that they're like, what have you done? And you're not having to pitch that, as well as inventory. If Walmart really said yes to me, they might be ordering for 500 stores, and I would have to have the capital to back up that order, which I might not have if I'm a new brand. So Amazon, you can start with 50 products or 100 products or a pallet of products. That capital expenditure is smaller. I think also when you start in retail, you're stuck to geographical locations. And on Amazon, you can sell, I can ship my product into Illinois here from Kansas City. And now I'm shipping to all 50 states. That is a huge plus. So distribution, you immediately have distribution built in. So that's solving a problem. You don't have to get customers, which is a huge part of growing a business. So if you're in a D2C site or a website, you have to learn just as well as like creating the place where they buy, the store itself, the conversion point, and the storytelling part. You have to also be very good at creating, being a marketer, being an advertiser, and creating really engaging content and getting that messaging right. And there's a lot of nuance to it, and it can be done. And when you get it, it's amazing. But Amazon is essentially streamlining all of that. And for that, they take a percentage. But what you're getting is on Amazon, very strict rules that everyone has to compete by. You're getting like national distribution. You're getting customers like by the millions already in your store, so to speak. And then you just have to be able to like create a good product and get eyeballs on it. And that's where advertising comes in and some of the strategies. But it's also, instead of having to understand exactly like the emotions and everything behind like a good ad, like a TV ad or a Facebook ad, you are doing direct response marketing, which is more straightforward, which is I'm selling a pink water bottle. I'm going to advertise on pink water bottle and drive traffic to my product. And that's some of the like reasons I think it's such a good place, as well as like the scalability. You have teams of 3 people running like multi-million dollar brands on Amazon. And they don't have a fulfillment center. They're not like out picking the product. It can be very efficient with a small team, very, very scalable. I think it is the best place to test or grow or launch a brand. And there's exceptions, certain products that aren't, it's like ideal just for Amazon. Amazon can be good for it, but it's maybe not the best place to start. But we're talking in general. I hope that gave some clarity.
Yeah, no, I think those are all really great points because, like I was saying before, like Amazon has definitely built up their own brand loyalty. It's almost like you get to tap into that.
It's like influencer marketing. Amazon's saying, hey, we trust this brand. Look at these reviews. We're using FBA. We haven't shut them down. Like we're putting them on. Just if an influencer's try this product. And if you go into certain stores that you love, I'm a Target guy over Walmart, but as an example, I go into Target, I trust Target to take care of me while I'm in there. And I like the products that are in there. That's why I choose that store. And I'm not second guessing every product I come across in the aisle at Target. And that might be a silly example, and there's higher end stores, but you're like, once you're inside that house or that retail store, you're like, okay, now I've got the trust of Target. I know that my money's going to work here. I know that they're not going to fraud me here. I know that I can return it if I need to. I know that it's not moving. It's going to be here tomorrow. All these things that kind of come with the trust of the retailer.
Yeah, 100%. And you definitely can see just talking branding from the Targets to the Walmarts, and you were talking Save
Quick Trip,
or whatever.
yeah.
Here we have Wawa.
Yeah.
And all of my up north friends were like, Wawa coffee, Wawa coffee. And before it came to our town, I was like, gas station coffee? Are you serious? Like, it's always disgusting. It's always whatever. Like, I'll go in and get it if that's all I have time for, but really. And then they came to the city. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like, I get it.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm a fan.
Like, I'll drive an extra mile to go to a Quick Trip, knowing that the restrooms are going to be clean and the staff are going to acknowledge me when I come in and give me eye contact, some of the things you don't get at other gas stations, like it just, that is their brand and that matters to me. And everyone's different. Some people want to save the 5 cents. But for me, I'm like, no, that brand is strong enough to make me want to go that extra mile.
Yeah, brand, you just talking about extra mile, repeat purchases and things are huge. Getting people talking about your brand. So we've been talking about why branding is important, like how it makes us feel, what a brand is. So there's probably a lot of people like, great, that's awesome, I want that. So how would you recommend people even start to think about it? Or how do you and your team go, okay, so we have this product, we have this client, they have a product, we believe in it. What do you do to take it to the next level?
I think it starts with asking yourself or the people you're working with the right questions. Similar to dating or getting to know someone on a podcast or anything like that, it comes down to the questions. And there's books like the Storybook Brand, and there's a bunch of others, but they basically pose you questions as you read it that make you think. And as you if you take the time to really write these answers out, you start to be able to formulate, okay, this is what I'm about. This is what I stand for. This is what my product stands for. This is the value we're trying to bring. This is the mission we're trying to accomplish. This is our value proposition, all those things. And I'm building a brand with a TikToker, and he's a younger guy. And he was wanting to build something, and I just kept asking him questions like, what are you about? What are you trying to do? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? All these kinds of things. And it can be you as the owner. It can be seeing the product that way. So first you start with, and it can be hard to get it out. And that's where you start with lists. Okay, I don't even know what I'm selling yet. That's a different kind of list of questions. But if you already have a product and you're like, okay, we just don't have a good brand story. There's so many products I've come across on Amazon or been hired to work with. They have literally no brand story at all. It doesn't exist. They have a logo. They have some product photography, but there's no cohesiveness. There's nothing between them. There's no vibe. There's no emotion. I've always tried to, once I got over being offended and I got over taking everything personal and I got over making so many assumptions and all these things, I had to do these for work as a consultant. You start to learn these abilities and you have to practice them. And I started looking at content differently, and I'm just more neutral, where it's okay, I'm looking at this photo. It's a pretty girl. It's a pretty dress. It's a pretty ring. It's a pretty baseball bat. But what is this picture telling me? Do I feel anything? Is it clear exactly what I'm seeing in the photo? When I go to the next photo, do I feel like I'm in the same house, or did I just switch houses? Is it it's like swiping on someone's Instagram and you're from photo to photo, it doesn't even look like the same person. That's a bad thing, right? So if you're trying to get trust, which is what we're all trying to do, it's having this abstract approach, an abstract perspective at it, looking at your stuff seriously. And another thing I tell a lot of people is it's less fake it till you make it and more emulate until you can create. So gather 3, 4, 5 brands that you do love and you do love their brand story. And if you don't have 5 at top of mind, do your research and find them and gather those and then be like, I'm going to take the best elements from these 5 to use for my own. And that will get you further down the road. And then from there, you're like, okay, I'm much closer to what can actually work or what I like or what feels right than I was before. That's one of the best ways I can suggest. If you're trying to build out your LinkedIn, go grab 4 or 5 of the best profiles out there that you can find and do what they're doing. And then as you figure out that, you make it a little bit better and a little bit better.
Definitely. Speaking of LinkedIn, I think I just revamped my profile. I'm still not sure it's great, but I went through something. I thought it was good and went back and reread it. And I was like, no, that's a little cheese. I'm gonna take another shot at that.
No, and everyone has their own way of doing things for sure. But if someone's doing 100 million in sales and you're struggling to get 100,000, it's wise to watch and study and learn from them and see what they're doing.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of it, because like you were saying, branding conveys emotion. So it's almost like you're trying to get to the heart of what emotion am I trying to convey and then working backwards from it in a way.
Yeah. So think about a product, as an example. Let's say we're selling a baby frame. So it's baby pictures and it's got first year photo or something, just to put something out there for anyone listening. And what are you selling with that photo? Let's think about who we're selling to. We're not selling to the baby. Okay. So we're selling to someone probably coming to a 1-year-old's birthday. Probably not the parents. The parents probably have a million photos. They're not buying that 1-year-old frame. But so maybe it's the grandparents. Maybe it's an aunt or uncle. Maybe it's a sibling. Okay, so we're selling to them. Let's try to get them they want to appease the mother and father or whoever they're buying the gift for. So it's important to them to not feel cheap, to feel like they're getting a quality gift, that they're showing up, they're doing something special for them. Then two, you're wanting them to be like, my niece or my granddaughter or my sister is going to love, it's going to look great in this. It's pink or it's got unicorns or it's got something that makes them think of their dog. And then you've got maybe a real photo of a cute baby in there that makes them be able to picture the one they're buying for in there. You have a lot of emotions going on. You have the parents that actually have the kid that you're buying the gift for, and you want them to think that you're getting them a quality gift. So maybe that means that it's gift ready. Maybe that means that it's not the cheapest thing on Amazon. So when they come to look at it, they see that you bought the cheapest. You care about this. And then you also care about, why am I going to purchase it? I'm going to purchase it because I want my granddaughter to look really cute and I wanted to display her on the piano or whatever. And so that's just a silly example, but like, that's where I say emotions are involved. And that's where the photography and kind of the messaging, gift ready, and these types of things come into play. And then part two is now the logic brain says, okay, I felt something. I felt good about this. I clicked on it. I engaged with it. Okay, I was like looking for a gift and this fits exactly what this is gift ready and this feels like this would be a great gift. It's going to come in a good box, not a cardboard box. Logic says, can I afford this? Do other humans like review the product? Let me read the reviews. Is anyone saying this is oh, someone else got this for their niece. Okay, great. And oh yeah, and she loved the gift. Okay, yeah, this validates what I felt a minute ago. And so the logic comes in after that emotional part. And that's what decides like for the purchase or not.
Yeah, I loved you walking us through that because it's true. Obviously, it's a scenario, but that's what you really should be thinking about with your branding. Because if you're just like, oh, these frames are selling really good, let me just like order some on Amazon and I'll throw them up, and the packaging's not right. Or if you're trying to make it giftable, but like you said, going in a cardboard box, because you were saying it's all the things that have to work together. So if they're having a positive reaction, if they think it's giftable, but it shows up in packaging that like they don't feel like they're giving someone something of quality, even if the product is of quality. But if
They
you're
don't
taking
feel
a
like
step
they
back,
are.
recognizing this is a giftable item, I need to be thinking in the position of a shopper who's going to be looking for something that's going to be given as a gift. Then I need to think of, again, it's the whole experience around the book.
And that's why it's important to know your customer. Is like, because if you know your customer, if we're selling to the uncle and aunt every time that's buying the gift, oh my God, from our photography to our models to our messaging, we can just dial in on that aunt and uncle. Versus if it's the grandparents, it's something else. If it's the mother, it's something else. So you can get your consistency and your segmentation just that much more dialed in. Because if it is about the feeling, how do you think they're going to feel about that gift if they buy it as a gift and it shows up on time and it is quality, but the packaging or that box sucks? That's going to be disappointing for them. And that might lead to a bad review or a return or whatever. So that messaging, that branding, that content was off. And it could have been helped just by being very clear about what you're selling or focusing on the right stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So when we're talking, like you were talking about, like them opening the package, like roughly, I know there's probably a lot of touch points, but like how many touch points do you have when it comes to selling on Amazon to really, again, create that whole shopper experience?
Well, I think, let's just say most of the time it's an ad. So you have the first ad where they see your photo and then, or video, and wherever they discover you. And then you have them landing, so they click through from the search results page, then you have them landing on the product page. Maybe they watch the video, maybe they look through all the photos, maybe they scroll down the A+, maybe they don't, right? Those are all different areas. But then you've got the customer reviews, you've got Amazon posts that might support it, all kinds of stuff there. But let's say that they buy, then you get a chance to touch them with an email from Amazon, depending on how you're navigating that. But usually some kind of touch point that says your item's on the way, or if you have any issues, let us know, or here's a free cookbook or ebook to go with it or something like that. Then you have when the package, so they're opening it up traditionally in an Amazon box that then has your package inside of it. So it arrives outside, you see an Amazon box, but then inside of that is a chance to brand your product with its packaging. So there's a touch there. You could have something fun that's like engaging with them, bringing them to Amazon, or we just launched a product that has a free coloring book with a QR code or some stuff like that. And then you have a chance on the follow-up. Either they've got their purchase, did they love it? Like that review request or that touch there. Simply, that's how you avoid negative reviews, is simply saying, is there anything else we can do better? And if you're doing it really great, you have something in the packaging that brings them to your website or your social to engage so that you can follow up there and essentially have a lot less rules than if you're marketing them from Amazon.
I'd love to touch on that. I know we're talking about branding, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what you can, like, obviously keep it terms of service.
Yeah.
Like, don't play dirty, like insinuating reviews and only good reviews. I mean, I think that's a whole nother topic. Like definitely keep it terms of service. But what you're saying is definitely put your branding, which should include like a website or other touch points on your packaging, on your inserts, display the brand.
Totally. And you can even send your stuff into Amazon, like through seller support, and ask for approval if you want to be like super careful about it. There's just terms of service, there's a lot to it. Sometimes it's hard to know all the ins and outs of what you can or can't do. So if you're nervous about it and don't have a professional on your team, ask Amazon, can I include this in my packages? We have some that get sent handwritten postcards after the purchase, like by the owner. There's all different kinds of things you do. Like we're never incentivizing for review. We never suggest that, but we'll just do all the touches. We're a family business. If they are, or your warranty here, or sign up to our subscriber list here, like those kinds of touches, because you want them in your ecosystem. You want them coming back. A lot of brands on Amazon, we do a lot of subscribe and save messaging. So Amazon definitely approves of that, right? So we're just pushing them like, don't forget, like if you loved this, come back, get 5% or 15% off or whatever the case might be. Because if we can get them in our subscribe and save ecosystem, we've got them. So all these are touches, and every single time you touch the customer, you're getting a chance to show quality and trust and reputation. And every single touch, you want to be as if it was the first time.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to bring this like full circle because obviously I think there's a piece of us that wants to build a brand, like just for the fact of building something like, oh, I put this out in the world. I'm making people feel this way. I'm making people feel part of a tribe by doing this thing. It's almost like this brainchild that's now in the world. And so there's something exciting that comes with being able to bring that into the world. Let's be honest, like we're on Amazon to make sales. And so definitely I'd love to come full circle on that again on like how branding definitely impacts sales. And I know you went over this in the beginning.
Well, that's a big play on, let's say that you've got 3 products that are all competitive against each other. And one of them has cohesive images from the photos, and the bullet points are reflecting the photos, and the A+ reflects the photos and the bullet points. And the other one has one image, and the other one has images that look like you don't know what's being sold. It's got 7 images and photos, but like it's all over the place. You're going to buy from the one that looked beautiful and branded. That's a no-brainer. If you're trying to exit your business on Amazon, they're going to say, you don't really have a brand. We don't want to buy it. So if you're ever trying to exit your business or get a valuation for your business, you need to have a brand. That's a must. If you're selling a product that's in competition with Chinese sellers where they can beat you on price and availability and things like that, you need a brand to stand out. Think about Made in USA. That is a brand in itself. That's a statement that says, this is American made. It's supposed to say quality. It's supposed to say local, support your own economy. These are things like that's a brand. That's a brand statement for a lot of companies. So these are all things that help, that influence us. Growing up, it was a huge deal. Oh, does your dad like Ford? Or does your dad like Chevy? Or does your dad like Mitsubishi? Or I'm like, it doesn't matter. All these parts come from the same place. I grew up all over the world, so I never really had that. But for some families, that was like a deal breaker. If you owned a Ford and they were a Chevy family, it was like you're excommunicated. I think that's the power of brand. And I think on Amazon, there were times it's just evolved, right? There were times where simply putting up product was good enough to get it sold. And sometimes you still can. If you're in a category where you're all by yourself, there's not a lot of competition, you don't have to have brand to be crushing it. However, if you add brand and you're already in a category by yourself, like, wow, you're like really setting yourself up for success. And who knows, the difference is like, I think investing in great content and like packaging and that stuff is more of like an investment in the future. But because once it's done, let's not set it and leave it. But once it's done, let's say you get a 5% conversion rate increase, like indefinitely, so it doesn't go backwards. So those things just pay off. It's not always a direct ROI. It's definitely an investment. But if you've ever been around the block, if you understand the brands that sell for 630 million versus the brands that sell for maybe 6 million or 3 million on Amazon, a lot of times the difference is one of them has created a very strong household name.
And like you were saying, there are some categories still on Amazon. There are those weird things that you find, you're like, I didn't even know you can get this on Amazon. That's so cool. But like you were saying, like touch points with the customer. Just think of if you've been selling for years in a space where you haven't really had to do any heavy lifting for branding because you are the category leader. All of those years, you could have been having a much stronger touch point with your customer. So when maybe competitors move into the space and it becomes a price game, you've already gained so much loyalty in that space that it's even that much harder to knock you off.
Yeah. being a front runner with that name, think about Depends, like incontinence underwear or Kleenex or Apple. There's these brands that like you say them, the whole category, you really just name the industry leader is what we're naming. We're not naming even the category of what we're selling. And it's like, yeah, everything under that. Yeah, some people would say Coke. No one ever says Pepsi. They're like, I want a Coke or a soda or a pop, in my opinion. So like Coke has led the way for a long time in regards to like thinking about soda. People replace it interchangeably with a brand, which I think is, if I ever got to that point, I'm done. Because, if you're synonymous with something as big as that, but I think that's the goal. And if you're out in front, like you have to stay out in front. That's just the business 101, entrepreneurship 101 is continue to innovate. And so for me, if you're already crushing it and you don't have a brand in place, but you're crushing it on Amazon, what better opportunity than now to start pushing toward that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to question, so like we're talking about building a brand, like if you have your brand, how much should you be afraid of going off brand? Have you seen any instances of that, or like where there's a really negative? Because I think some people is like, oh, good enough is here. I don't want to mess with it too much. Like, how much do you think it's important to look at like innovation, constantly moving forward, staying ahead of the pack, but then also writing that line between not, I guess, losing trust that's been.
I think that's a fine line. It's a bit of art. It's a bit of art. And you can stay vintage, but still have like relevant new content. Sometimes I'll post some negative stuff on my Instagram and I'm upset. I'm trying to be authentic. My brand is authenticity and transparency. It's also positive. I like to be positive. And in one instance, I'm like being true to the brand over here by being authentic and transparent about what's going on the other end. I'm like, I feel like I'm being negative and it feels like it's a little bit off brand for me. And I feel, I don't know, I'm sending mixed messages. That's just a personal example for lack of a better one. But I think that's where it can be like, it's not really a right or wrong. It's more of a gray. And as much as you might make a change and it go down, you can make a change and it goes up. So that's always a possibility.
True. So I guess maybe just closing out with last question of when do you think it's important to reevaluate your brand? Say you're the leader, how should you be evaluating your brand?
So I think it's like definitely subjective to the time and place. I think if your brand is not getting engagement and not growing, that's a clear sign something's off, like we're not resonating with customers. We need to reevaluate what we're doing. And it could be any number of things, right? Just because you paid someone $50K to do your branding doesn't mean they nailed it. That's the thing. It doesn't mean that they've nailed it just because you spent a lot of money on it. So that can be a really hard pill to swallow if you've gone forward with branding and it's not right. So make sure you're choosing the right partner. That's going to really help you create something together. And another time would be like reviews, like follow-ups, not even just on Amazon, but just in general, like reaching out to colleagues, reaching out to competitors, maybe not competitors, but colleagues, people that will tell you that the real yes and no's, and just be like, is it clear what we're selling and what we're doing? And, or like, when you hear my brand, what do you think of? And if their answer is not exactly what you want it to be, then you're not dialed in my opinion. And I usually give this story of like when I used to be known around Kansas City with my apparel brand, Landlocked, as the t-shirt guy. And people would just be like, oh yeah, you're the t-shirt guy. And they were being nice and complimentary, but it always bothered me because I was like, I'm doing Amazon. Like Amazon's so much cooler. I'm building brands. I'm doing really cool stuff in e-commerce. And I wanted to be known as the Amazon guy. No reference to Stephen Pope, but I wanted to be known as the Amazon guy around Kansas City. And if anyone needed Amazon help, I wanted them to think of me. And so that was a time where I had to take a step back and be like, the feedback I'm getting from people out in the wild, much less what's in my mind, like disregard whatever I think. The feedback I'm getting from people is that they think of Andrew Morgans as the t-shirt guy and I'm the Amazon guy. Something's off with my branding. And so that's where like some of that feedback, being really open to just like feedback and constructive criticism, and you're doing it, you're waiting till it's presented well, you put it out there in the world, you see how the response is, and then you make an assessment. Did we nail it on this one? Does this feel like me? Does this feel like us? And the feedback I'm getting from real customers and from people out there in the world, is it close to the messaging we're trying to put off? And I know that being an Amazon agency, a marketplace agency, people didn't used to understand what that meant. And it was a very confusing time for me when I was trying to really like brand my company and what we do, because it just didn't resonate. It wasn't a strong enough, let's say, slogan or term or industry yet to be able to just say that and people get it. And so I was like, I'm really in this like no man's land of, what I'm trying to build. So I can definitely resonate with people that are struggling to find that. But with products over services, at least like if you're not like truly creating an invention and you have like a pretty straightforward product, a lot of times that brand story becomes, the hero story of the founders or the hero story of the product. And picking one or two of those is a pretty easy path forward.
Yeah, definitely. So it sounds like you do the best you can with the data you have, and then you let the market tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I am so grateful that you are able to come on here. You definitely know a lot about branding. If you are looking for somebody to help you with a rebrand or to help you figure out your brand story, if I got my products, I know I'm not hitting the market, I need some help, definitely recommend hitting up Andrew and his team. They're amazing. So Andrew, yeah, just for those of the people out there listening, they're like, I resonate with that so hard. I feel like I don't know how to build it. Where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Morgans, as well as Marknology. We're on obviously the web, www.marknology.com. And I personally am on Instagram at Andrew Morgans. There's not a lot of Morgans out there. So if you type it in with an S, that's me. And happy to chat with anybody. Just show me your product, show me what you're trying to do. I'd love to just go back and forth with you and see if I can help. So thanks for having me on the show, Liz.
Thanks so much for being here. Much appreciated.